What's up, Jaguars and fans of Catfish, the TV show? I'm bringing to you yet another epic installment of Catfish, the review. And right now I am about to review the reunion show of Catfish, the TV show. This is brought to you by the copyrighted brand name Ralph J Images. You know, the brand name that brings you the epic web series on YouTube. And yes, you heard me correctly. I'm about to review the final episode of Season 2 of Catfish, the TV show. Yeah, I know. I was really dreading this. As well, Jaguars and fans of Catfish, the TV show. Because this whole season has been one heck of a ride, you know. It wasn't easy, but goddamn, I really enjoyed doing this. But you know what? If we're gonna go out, let's go out with a mother effing bang. That's right, this week's episode was the reunion show for Catfish, the TV show. I don't want to sound repetitive here. And as you can see here, you know, it's very apparent that, you know, they went ahead and shot this in what appears to be Madison Square Garden. I'm really hoping that, you know, that's the city they were in New York. And here is our popular host, Sushin Pak. Okay, well, you know what? Well, yeah, she's not all that popular, but she is the host. And, you know, she did a pretty good job, you know, hosting this reunion for all of us, you know, fans of this hit show on MTV. But then again, it wasn't really that hard. I mean, she didn't really have to do much, you know, because it was really, you know, Nev and Max that did, you know, most of the work, you know, traveling here and there, all over this country to bring us all this. And well, you know, but hey, you know, Sushin Pak does look good though. I mean, I like that dress she was wearing. Now, as you saw on this week's reunion show, you know, they took a look at, you know, some more of the stories that impacted, you know, this season, just like they did in the mid-reunion. Here on the reunion show, they took a look at some of the stories that, you know, Nev and Max had to deal with. You know, helping the catfisher, well, helping the catfishy meet the catfisher, you know, bringing them together to, you know, finally put this whole thing on the table and just let the truth, you know, reveal itself, because that is what this is all about. And I just want to go ahead on and give you all my take on how I feel on, you know, the stories that really highlighted, you know, this season. Let me start with Mike and Caroline. Okay? No, not Caroline Sunshine. Not like, you know, the song went. Because it's not that kind of Caroline. That what this show was about. A little bit of a recap, okay? You know, Heather, you know, pretended to be someone else on a website called Plenty of Fish. There, she met Mike, and, you know, as it first started out, she teamed up with her friend and created another fake profile for the very first time to see if her friend's husband was cheating on her. Mike met her on that website. You know, that's where the encounter happened. And about some time later, you know, Heather revealed Mike the whole truth. And of course, Mike had a typical reaction. He was upset. And he actually took a picture of the iPhone and sent Heather the, you know, catfish pic. That's right. He did explain this on the reunion show. He took a picture, you know, of the, you know, of the profile and sent it to Heather, and it said catfish on it. And that is what prompted Heather to create another profile just to get back at Mike. But as you saw on the show, you know, on their episode, Heather did feel bad about doing that, and she really does regret it. Okay. Well, the way I feel about this situation is, I already explained it, you know, when I covered, you know, their episode on Catfish, the TV show. It was wrong what Heather did, and the reason why she keeps finding herself in this situation is because, you know, she keeps on putting herself in the situation by, you know, catfishing, you know, other people. I mean, you just have to be yourself you just have to be yourself. I mean, just like everyone else has, you know, on this show. Because all this stuff about insecurities and, you know, people not liking how they look and they're trying to be someone else, just not right. Or for whatever reason they are doing it, you know. Because everyone has their own agenda, of course, when they are creating these profiles. You know, rather you're trying to find out a certain truth or trying to trick someone, you know, I guess it still doesn't make it right. So at this point right here, you know, at this point right here, you know, Heather and Mike, they seem to be at a good place. But there was another surprise on the show, okay? They actually decided to bring out, you know, the real Caroline on the reunion show. So Caroline and Heather, you know, would meet face to face. And here she is, Jaguars and fans of Catfish, the TV show. The real Caroline deal. And this is the first time ever, you know, on the history of Catfish, or Catfish, the reunion, you know, where the real person in the pictures would come on the reunion show. Wow, that's really something, you know. Pretty epic, don't you think? The person in the pictures is coming face to face with the catfisher. Hot damn. Definitely make for a great television, huh? And, you know, Nev went ahead on and asked the question, you know, right here on the spot, you know, was she able to, you know, date Mike, you know. But as you saw on their episode, you know, they did talk on chat. But Caroline, you know, the real Caroline said that, you know, there really wouldn't be anything there because of the encounter that Heather had with, you know, Mike. And this really shocked everybody, you know, when she said that. It even shocked, you know, Heather. So my take on this whole thing would have to be, you know, it goes like this, you know, basically, I don't think there may not be anything here, you know, between Caroline and Mike, because they just didn't have enough time to, you know, talk that much. Yeah, I mean, they did talk on chat, you know, at the end of, you know, their episode in this season, but still not enough time. And I think that, you know, it should be left, you know, as is, you know, do what we left it on their episode, because we brought it to a good resolution and it'll just have to stay that way. Okay. Okay, about this story right here. Kayana and Bow Wow. OMG. Yeah, Kayana actually fell for this one, didn't she? She actually thought that D Pimpin was actually Bow Wow. That's right, D Pimpin pretending to be Bow Wow so she can hook Kayana into this online relationship scam. And she did it to other girls too, you know. And to make it more convincing, you know, D Pimpin in the guise of Bow Wow sent, you know, Kayana a whole lot of money. Money. 10,000. Good gosh. Yep. A whole lot of money. And I think that was enough to, and I think that would be enough to convince anyone that, you know, you're a celebrity. But then, of course, you saw what happened on their episode, you know, truth came out, you know, because Nev and Max went in, did their thing, and Lord have mercy, yeah, they sure found out the truth, didn't they? And that's when it all came out. You know, as of right now, you know, D Pimpin has tried to reach out to Kayana, you know, but it doesn't look like Kayana's having it. I mean, yeah, she's not really hearing it, but of course, you know, I just feel like, you know, D Pimpin just has to be herself instead of trying to be someone else. You know, typical speech that I'm about to give right here, you know, my typical take on this whole thing. I mean, yeah, she is an inspiring rapper. Okay, that's good. And I think, you know, if she stays truthful, be honest with herself and everyone else, and I think she'll make it. And who knows, you know, D Pimpin could turn out to be bigger, if not better, than Bow Wow. But of course, you know how the music industry is. But that's a whole different, you know, subject. But relationship-wise, yeah, I think these two are definitely going to have to, you know, chill on the online dating thing. But then again, so is everyone else on this crazy show. Now, this right here is the only, and I do mean only, well, at least I think this is the only success story of Catfish, the TV show and the movie. Lauren and Derek, you know, at first it had been, now these two appeared in the mid-season reunion, okay? And it had been 8 years, you know, they've been talking to each other online, they fell in love online, and during the 8 years that they have been communicating with each other online, a lot has happened. Well, at least for Lauren, a lot has happened, you know. Lauren has had a son by another guy, and she was engaged to a third guy. But then the wedding was called off because of her true feelings for Derek. And thanks to Nev and Max, you know, Derek and Lauren finally got together. And that is good. And in the mid-season reunion, you know, they were still together, trying to work it out. And on this reunion show right here, they came back with some great news, you know. They had already moved in together, which is good, and that is when Derek decided to pull his all-out surprise, and Derek actually proposed to Lauren, you know. Derek asked Lauren to marry him, and Lauren said yes. All right, yeah, that's good. So congratulations to Lauren and Derek. You know, they're engaged to be married, which is good. And that right there, Jaguars and fans of Catfish, the TV show, the very first time ever, you know, two people who met online and they're gonna get married. Wow, that is really something. And I feel like, it's good that, we have a single success story here on Catfish, in the history of Catfish. And that is pretty epic, Jaguars. And I am happy for Lauren and Derek. It's nice to get some, positivity in all of this crazy mess here. And if Lauren and Derek can get together and have things work out, very good like this, then there might be hope for others, So once again, Lauren and Derek, congratulations. And that's epic. Well, unlike Lauren and Derek, this story right here, of course, didn't turn out so well, but you all already know that. I mean, I don't have to sit here and critique it and review it for you to know that. You watch the show, you know what the F is going on. Right? The story of Alia and Alicia. You know what the story is. Alia met Alicia online, thought she was a full-blown lesbian, but when Nev and Max went in there and did their thing, they found out otherwise. Alicia already had a boyfriend, a whole bunch of other stuff was revealed. Alia didn't have those kind of feelings. Wait a minute, Alicia didn't have those kind of feelings for Alia, and Alia, had already spent money on Alicia, paying her bills and all that mess, buying her iPhones and this and that. Oh, jeez. OMG, what the heck, man? Good gosh. And when we actually went to meet Alicia at her spot, and because of her attitude and because of the way that she was acting, my first thought was B-I-T-C-H. And you know what that spells. Yeah, I just didn't like Alicia's attitude. I was ready to write her off. But then, I guess I don't have to hold on to the grudge, right? Because, Alicia did say that she enjoyed the friendship, and now that everything has been revealed and, everything's out on the table, I guess we're able to, come to a good resolution as always. And now Alia has, at this point right here, I believe that Alia has graduated high school, and, she has a pretty good job and she's getting money. That's good, And she does regret, paying Alicia's bills. Well, of course she is. I mean, I would regret that. I would regret that too. So, yeah. But Alia, has a good job, and she is getting money now, which is good. I mean, of course, money is not the most important thing, but it is kind of important, right? So they're both moving on, and it looks like they're both doing good, which is pretty good. Nick and Melissa. A very aligned and confusing story. The story goes like this. You all know how the story goes, but I'm going to explain it to you anyway, okay? Melissa and Nick, they met when they were very young on MySpace. Both have, the one thing they both had in common was that, they're fans of Tila Tequila. But of course, I'm a fan of Tila Tequila too. And they both, when they met, they were very young, and they stayed in contact with each other. Fell in love with each other, basically forming this online relationship. But there was just one problem, of course. At that time, Melissa did say that, she was in a relationship and also living with her boyfriend, Olin. Yeah, she had a boyfriend that she was living with, Olin. And, Nick, had reached out to Nev and Max, wanting to find out, was Melissa is who she said she was. And they found out a whole bunch of other things, Of course, Nev and Max, did their investigation as always finding out stuff. The pictures was shot in a different angle, so she would look different, look thinner. So what Nick wanted to do, like I explained in their episode, he wanted to Nev and Max to arrange the meeting so he can meet Melissa. And he knew that about the relationship of Melissa and Olin, and Nick wanted to go down there just to box out Olin. And this is where my concern came in, me having personal experience in this type of thing, I mean, the guy wants to go down there to box out the other guy so he can ease on in there. And I just pretty much, because I'm going to be totally honest with you, because I really thought that Melissa was going to choose Olin and not Nick. I really felt that way, Jaguars. Because I didn't think for a second that Melissa was going to dump Olin and go with Nick. I'm going to just keep it real with you, Jaguars. I mean, that's just how I felt. And I did not want to put Nick through that. But I'm just thinking, hot damn, I just know how this is going to go. But when Nev and Max found out all that information, all that stuff about, Melissa, it really broke Nick down. And then they finally, met face to face, thanks to Nev and Max. And that is when she revealed that 2 weeks after she moved in with Olin, they had, should I say, officially broken up or technically broken up, but yet they had still had feelings for each other, Melissa and Olin, and they acted like a couple. And that's where it really got confusing, because that's what really got me. This whole time we're thinking that Nick had to compete with Olin, but he didn't really, because when we went down to meet her, that's when she told us that, Melissa and Olin had broken up. And then when Nev and Max went to talk to Melissa and Olin, and that's when Olin said that he is really broken up, but he's not broken up because he doesn't want that relationship label. What's that all about? Anyways, okay, right here, at this point, on the reunion show, it appears that, nothing much has changed. Melissa is still living with Olin. I mean, we don't know whether that's her boyfriend, her friend, or, I mean, well, she does have a job, but, well, which is good. And Nick seems to be doing well in his school in Texas. Yeah. Yeah, car shop in Texas. And I'm really happy that, and it's really good that we all can move on from this and, just get the closure that we wanted. So it's not really much to say about it, except that, this whole story was confusing, but now, I just feel like, it is somewhat, cleared up. And, Nick he might be looking at girls online, but he's being really careful about it, though, and which is good. So I wish them both the best of luck. Alright, Jaguars and fans of Catfish, the TV show, here they are. Batman and Robin, the dynamic duo, the online PI team. Nev and Max are infamous too. They're the stars of this show. Well, of course, Nev, well, he might be more of the star of the show than Max is, because since he has a personal component, in this whole equation and this whole show, because he starred in the movie that started this whole thing, when the 40-year-old woman, Abby, did it to him. And it was his idea to do this whole thing, investigating and helping other people with their situations who are in online romances. Okay, so let me answer a couple of questions that was posed to these two on the reunion show. Someone in the audience asked, do Nev and Max find everyone? Well, so far, let me tell you, so far they have, okay? Because they seem to have a pretty good system, the technology that they have, the resources that they have, provided to them by the, MTV network and the staff of, Catfish, the TV show. They do image search and, with their laptop, they travel around with this. And they seem to have a pretty good system on how to do things. But what you have to understand is, no system is absolute. Because I can tell you right now, Jaguars, even I myself, I'm pretty much okay with the computer stuff, but I struggle a lot with the computer stuff. Because there has been times when the computer has let me down. So to say that, Nev and Max find everyone, I can say that so far they have been able to find everyone, okay? So far they have been able to, find out the truth, and find out what's really going on with online relationships, tracking down the catfisher, for the catfishy, and, and all that. But of course, when it comes down to it, the truth is really going to reveal itself, It's not about, Nev and Max going in there, and catching people who are, reeling someone else into an online relationship with lies. Truth is going to reveal itself always. So remember that. Now this is what I'm going to quote what a fan said on Twitter, okay? This is what the fan said, and I quote, I feel bad for Max. He always sits in the back seat of the car. That is, of course, when you watch the show and they go out to meet the catfisher, My response to that is, well, where else is he gonna sit? The shotgun seat, in the car has to be for the catfishy, because the catfishy is the guest on the show. And they're on their way to meet the catfisher, or the supposed, catfisher. And Max has to sit somewhere. He can't sit, in the shotgun seat. So he has to sit in the back, because you see, it's the catfishy who is the guest. That's just my take on the whole thing. But you know what? That is a very good point. Maybe Max should drive the car sometimes, and maybe Nev can sit in the back sometimes, take turns with the whole thing, just to make it fair. So yeah, that is a very good point. Max always having to sit in the back and hold the camera. Yeah, and that's another thing. Someone has to hold the camera, and he can't drive and hold the camera at the same time. Yeah, that'll be pretty difficult. And Nev, of course, he's the star of the show, and he has to drive, and have the camera on him. So I mean, and that's the system that they have, and they seem to like it very much. I mean, it seems to be working out for them. Okay? Okay, so someone else asks a question. This is someone from the audience. How do Nev and Max refrain from beating up the jerks on the show? Now, of course, when this fan, asks, Nev and Max that question, I'm pretty sure that Sushin, Pak, and the people sitting at home and the people in the audience, the first thing that came to your minds was the Justin situation. The story of Artist and Jess. Right? And you thought about what was going to happen when, when Justin had pretended to be, Jess, I think it was Jesse, and a fight almost came down between Artist and Justin, because he had pretended to be Jesse, on the previous episode, and Nev had to step in, grabbing Justin's arm. Well, yeah, it almost went down. I mean, it got insane there, and you all watch the show just like I do, and it can get pretty heated. It often gets really heated on the show, especially when the catfisher meets the catfishee, and it's not the person in the pictures. It's going to get heated, and it's been a lots of times, when that has happened, not just with Artist and Justin, but lots of times, and. But to answer the question, my take on it is just like this, Jaguars, fans of Catfish, the TV show, we have to remain professional, stay on task, it's nothing personal, we're just doing the job. So that's just what it is, just stay professional, stay cool, and don't touch anyone unless you really feel you have to. And just focus on the job, Jaguars. That's how I see it. Okay. Now here's a question right here. I don't know how you Jaguars are going to feel about this. But someone in the audience asked a question, which is the obvious answer, to this question. She asks, what inspired Nev and Max to start this show, and what do they get out of this? Okay, now you watched it. Now, first of all, I'm not gonna, say anything bad about this girl for asking this question, because once you think about it, this is a pretty good question to ask, to remind everybody, what this is all about. Because, this whole thing about someone pretending to be someone else that they're not, just to get someone else into an online relationship, that's the exact same thing that happened to Nev. Abby, she lied. 40-year-old woman lied to Nev, told a whole bunch of lies, and pretended to be Megan. But then it was later they found out the truth, and Nev was really pissed off about it. And you all know the story. You saw the movie, the whole documentary, if you will. And that is what started this whole phenomenon right here. This whole big hit phenomenon. Catfish, the TV show. Which is why we're all here. And what do they get out of this? I mean, you're seeing what they get out of this. I mean, look at all these people here. Look at this reunion show. This is turning out to be a real big hit. And I am proud to have been a part of this. And Nev and Max, they want to help out other people who are in situations like this. So I hope that answers the question. Now another girl in the audience asked a question. Do Nev and Max get nervous when they go and meet the catfisher? But of course they get nervous when they go out to meet the catfisher, no matter what they find. Because like I said before, their system isn't always perfect, the technology that they have, even when they do image search and they found out that there's discrepancies with the catfisher's story. I mean, we really, because 7 times out of 10, they don't know what they're going to find. And do they get nervous about it? Oh, hell yeah, The catfish, he gets nervous about it, and so does Nev and Max. I mean, I get nervous about it too, I'm still worried when that axe murderer is going to show up. Just playing with y'all, Of course, that's never going to happen. But yeah, they do get nervous simply because, they don't know what to expect. Okay. Oh, and by the way, at the end of the show, Max made an announcement. He stood up in the same, and so did Nev, and they did it the same way that Lauren was, the same way that Derek, proposed to Lauren, And at this point, I really did get worried. I was like, uh-oh, what are they doing? Why is Max and Nev standing up? And that's when they made the announcement that season 3 will be coming. Yes, there will be a 3rd season of Catfish, the TV show. And I know you all are happy about that. Oh yeah. Now that's epic. So, this is the end of Catfish, the TV show, for the 2nd season. Which also means this is the end of Catfish, the review. But you know what? I think I'm going to have to scratch that. It's the end of Catfish, the TV show, for the 2nd season. But I do have an idea in mind for... Yeah, I think I have an idea, a project, if you will, because I want to keep this going, okay? Because, you see, Jaguars and fans of Catfish, the TV show, I really hate goodbyes and I really hate sad endings. I mean, this is not a sad ending, this has been a great experience. Okay, it's been great for me, because I'll tell you, yeah, this has been one heck of a ride. I mean, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all to do this, coming to you every week and reviewing, the episodes of Catfish, the TV show, for the 2nd season. It wasn't easy at all. But however, the hard work was worth it, struggling with the technical issues, and struggling and trying very hard to do the research for all this. It wasn't easy at all. But I feel like the hard work is worth it. Doing it for all the fans out there. Because I'm doing it for all the fans of Catfish, the TV show. And I'm doing it for all my Jaguars out there who enjoy this. All the people who are following along with this series. I really enjoyed that. And I really do appreciate you all following along with this, with this series right here on YouTube. Because, because you guys are paying attention and following, and watching all these installments of Catfish, the review. And by the way, I thank you all for doing that, and from the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate you guys joining me each week, participating in this. I thank y'all for doing that. And from this, I can't really tell you what it is right now, but I am working on something, similar to Catfish, the TV show. I can't tell you much, okay? But what I can tell you, it is a project very similar to Catfish, the TV show, because I want to keep this going. I don't want this to end. But I will tell you that it is something very epic that you all will like. I mean, I don't want to really call it a surprise because personally, I don't like surprises, okay? I really don't like surprises myself. I mean, because, I'm a superhero and, superheroes don't like surprises. I'm sorry, guys, but yeah. But I am working on something. I want everyone to stay tuned. I will bring you more news about that, okay? But for now, we're going to have to end this, Yeah, we're going to take, actually, let's call it a break, okay? We're going to take a break on this for now. But I will come back with more news about the project on, keeping this series going. Okay, even though the TV show is going to stop for a while, but on Catfish, the review, the project, and this channel, we're working on something so we can keep this going, okay? But for now, it's peace out till later. But it's not going to be that much later, because I will bring you news real soon.